actually have a circle at the airport, I think.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I had a landing. Like when the wheels come out, you don't even see the ground. Those the airplanes are coming out. You know, you're still in the cloud. That's happened to me when I was flying to Syracuse a lot out here.
You know what? That happened to us when we went to Dublin, Ireland. So we're coming down, and I'm like, okay, we're going to come out of the clouds soon. We're going to come out of the clouds soon. And all of a sudden, yeah, exactly. You couldn't see 3 foot in front of you because they had just had a snowstorm, a record snowstorm that that never comes through that area in Ireland. And it's kind of a weird feeling when it's like that.
Lori and Lily were a little freaked out. That was hard and fast. It was not a gentle, smooth. If they came out here, they could come out.
All right.
Did he call you?
No.
Then I'm done. I told him if he couldn't call you,
Okay.
you know.
Ain't no problem. I got plenty of things.
Well, so do I.
Yeah, I got you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've just pulled it out.
Morning, Mayor. Morning.
Got your coffee?
Got my coffee.
You're all good?
We're good.
Does everybody have their mics on?
Mike's on.
This is our first day of wireless.
Mic check.
Wireless. What's wireless?
The podium is now wireless.
Oh. Fancy. They didn't have to tape the wire.
Yes, we're very fancy today. Michael, are you
Should be interesting.
Are you on?
I watched the workshop last Tuesday online. It was fantastic.
Was it?
On
Good.
Facebook. You can see it online. Our website.
On YouTube.
Right. I tried to find it on YouTube. I couldn't navigate there, so I found it on Facebook.
All right, good morning, everyone.
It's crisp.
Hope you're all doing well today, did well through the storm. Welcome to today's City Council workshop. Workshop is a time where we will have presentations as well as for council to ask any questions about the agenda before we get to our meeting and address any other things that need to be discussed. On our workshop agenda, first of all, I would ask if you would please silence your cell phones. On our workshop agenda, we do have one presentation, and that is a market walk update. And we have Walter Warren and Bob Penner here with us. I see Buddy Stiers is here as well, and I'm sure that many of you are here for this topic also. So we will go ahead and get started and ask you all to come forward and give us your presentation, please.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
Good morning,
As you
Buddy.
know, I'm the Executive Director of the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base Redevelopment Authority, and you won't believe it, but I've been in that position this Friday 29 years. It's been a long and joyous journey, and we just hope to continue to complete the Market Common Master Plan. You're aware that the Redevelopment Authority has been in existence since July of 1994, and you know that because you just presented us a proclamation last month congratulating us and thanking us for what we've been able to accomplish. In 2004, the city and the Redevelopment Authority adopted a master plan for the redevelopment of the base and the Market Common District. That plan came from a community development plan that the Air Force accomplished during the base closure process. Some of you may have been a part of that and had an opportunity to voice your opinion about what should become of the base property. That plan produced an urban village, also known as the Market Common, and numerous recreational sites and athletic facilities. To support the Market Common, a housing density plan, multifamily and single-family housing was adopted. Although due to economic conditions, that plan has been amended over the years, reducing overall density it still focuses on providing a community around the market common to sustain its existence. What we've been able to accomplish with the cooperation that we've received from the city and its staff is tremendous, and it's truly something to be proud of. So on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority, I ask that you consider this redevelopment plan so that we can continue to try to accomplish the outcome of that master plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Smart.
Thank you, Colonel Stiers. Good morning, Mayor Bethune, members of council. My name is Anthony Dracoya, and I am Vice President with HomeFed and Project Manager for Market Walk.
There we go.
Joining me this morning are Bob Penner, Vice President with HomeFed and Manager of our Market Common Commercial Properties, our Attorney Dan Stacy, Walter Warren, our Civil Engineer with Thomas & Hutton, and Jim Hubbard with LS3P. Thank you for allowing us to present Market Walk at your workshop. Market Walk will be an excellent addition to Market Common and is fully consistent with the high standards we have established for the community. Together with your support, we can complete the development of Market Common on a high note and ensure that it will continue to be an asset for the city of Myrtle Beach. Dan will now come up to summarize the results of our community outreach. Following Dan, Walter will present Market Walk, and then Jim will come up to present Starbucks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Madam Mayor, members of council. Thank you, Anthony. At the request of certain members of your council, we were encouraged to reach out to some of the communities around this project and around the property and seek input and education and response. And so we conducted a series of 2 meetings where we were very fortunate to have leadership representation of 6 of the communities in proximity to this facility, and we were able to perhaps educate, perhaps show in a more intimate setting the proposed project, have some good Q&A, get some feedback, and actually make some tweaks and adjustments based on what we heard from the communities. I know that there are some community representatives here today that are signed up for public comment, and we certainly welcome that comment, but we believe we had a successful series of meetings, not full necessary wholehearted endorsement, but certainly some more education and understanding about what the project is and what it is not. And with some of the feedback we've heard, we hope some healthy tweaks that are beneficial to the neighborhoods as a whole. And so the technical guys are going to come now, but if always, like with every other meeting, if you have any questions about our community outreach or you have additional information you need, please ask me and I'll come right back and we'll get into some of the detail. So thank you very much.
Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
do you know approximately how many people from the communities attended those meetings?
So, Mayor, what we were trying to do in those meetings was ask for their leadership board representation, just because it's an easier, not to exclude members of the public, but it's a much more difficult meeting for Q&A and discussion back and forth if there's, 400 people there. So these were meetings of about 12 to 15 board members from these various communities that are surrounding here. So I think we wound up with 6 communities represented. So we didn't necessarily extend an invitation to the groups as a whole, not as a means to exclude, but more as a means to have more conversational exchange of information, trusting the leadership of these communities would disseminate that into their communities.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me. I would
Yes,
just like to follow up with the mayor's question. I understand you had representatives from 6 communities. What was the total representation
The total representation of board members?
of the people that attended the meetings?
I think at our first one, we had most of Emmons and Crestwind. At our second one, we had Reserve. Raymond, what's your community? Sweetgrass, and I'm sorry, Councilman Latter, I'm sure we can get that information to you, but it was, the ones that we invited were more in the proximity. It wasn't, we got more than 10 or 15 miles out from the actual location. We didn't.
I just didn't. So I heard you mention the number 12 to 15. Was that in one meeting?
Two different meetings. It was 2 different meetings. Yes, sir. One meeting we were able to get 2 of the associations, and then there were some conflicts, I think, with some of the leadership at the Reserve. So at our second meeting, we had the other 4, and they were kind enough to host at their clubhouse. Okay. Anything else on that issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Walter Warren with Thomas Hutton. I've had the dubious honor of just being slightly less involved in Market Common than Buddy Stires. Dating back to 1995 was my first day involving there. So I wanted to take some of the feedback we've received, both through meetings with council as well as meeting with the various POAs and individuals in and around the project. So might flip into a second. One thing we did here fairly frequently would be to have a mixed use in this particular location. This was originally approved back in 04, 07 range as a Macy's department store. So it was a massive facility, 180,000 plus square feet. We kind of all know what's transpired in the retail sector these days. We get it on the front step. We don't get it in the car after spending hours and hours of shopping. So looking at a preferred use here, the Market Common itself has been very successful in keeping its retail spaces filled and continues to have good transition when space does become available. The key has been to have users in Market Common. Obviously, the buyers and the individuals going to have dinner and so forth are a key to success here. Put one more. So we've taken the plan and created a retail, which will be a Starbucks. We'll bring Jim Hubbard up. He'll talk in particular about the Starbucks facility. This will be a standalone Starbucks. We've accommodated for a small retailer adjacent to that as well. It will be a very specialized retailer. And then we've got the commonly owned and rented by Market Common. So this particular property, based on requirements posted on it by the Air Force and during the closure process, needs to be commonly owned and commonly maintained. They didn't want it subdivided out into individual parcels. So we're creating, it'll be a mix. This is our clubhouse facility here, which will be complementary to the existing facility that's adjacent to this site. Continue on. Will be a mix of bungalows, cottages, and townhomes. And these will be alley-fed townhomes, so they won't have any garages facing the street. This will all be accessed off the back of the unit. So some perspectives created just to give you a feel for what it would be like as you drive through the project once completed. This is one of the townhome buildings. You can see the alleys facing in the back, so everything along the street front is clean and sidewalks and streetscape. One thing came up during some of the meetings with the POA boards was the appearance of the project from Howard Avenue. So we've added a heavily buffered section along Howard Avenue to basically recreate that portion, which is unlike the rest of Market Common, where we have walkways, street trees. It's more utilitarian today than it is. So we came up with a buffering plan to help screen the back of those units within Market Walk. I think that may be our last slide. So I'll be happy to answer any question. We've tried to integrate all of the comments that came about. We have completed, just for council's privilege, we have completed a traffic impact analysis, fully vetted that with staff, and all of the levels of service, as we refer to them in the engineering world, are acceptable, meeting industry standards. The only changes we're anticipating is a slight signal timing change at Phyllis and Farrah Parkway, and that was actually envisioned based on just regular growth, background growth, if the project did not even occur. So that's been planned out for years. We would just have that taking place either through staff, or we could bring in a signal consultant to actually make the adjustments on behalf of the city. Be happy to answer any questions on. Dan refers to us as the technical side, but
Any questions?
So none of these will have their own garages or anything like that? It will all be on street parking, correct?
No, the townhomes have garage parking, but they enter from the rear of the unit, not from the street side.
Okay.
So they have alleys with access to their garages.
Walter, how many handicap spaces are allotted to the on-street internal parking?
The standard ratio is 1 to 25, and we exceed that on the side of more handicaps available. And we'll work with staff exactly where those are located. We also work closely with staff on bicycle racks, where to place those, so it's the public can park their bike if they want to bike around Market Common.
And you're at least a minimum ratio of 2 spaces for every unit or every rooftop?
The city requires two spaces per unit. We're at 2.2, just north of 2.2. There was a question regarding if we eliminated completely, because we understand garages don't get used as much for vehicle parking as they do, or they used to do when I was a kid.
Storage.
Back in the day, as we'll call it. And we're in excess of the 1.6, which is the industry standard for this type of use. So we would be around 1.8. If nobody at all parked in their garage at all, we would still meet the 1.8 ratio.
But the city requires 2, correct?
Correct, and we're at 2.2.
So whatever the industry standard is, that's all well and good, but the city requires 2.
That's correct, and we're at 2.2, so we're above the required city parking.
Mr. Stiers mentioned that over the years, the density plan has been amended and to reduce the density. Can you talk a little bit about the density of this project and how that has changed?
Well, there's not a direct comparison to 180,000 square feet of retail use, but for the overall Market Common, just Market Common itself, and there seems to be some questions regarding the various areas within Market Common. We have Market Common Master Plan, and then we have projects like Center Point, the PUD for Center Point, which is immediately adjacent, but not part of it. But just for Market Common, the original approval was 1,680 residential units. With this and all planned projects, with the addition of this to those numbers, we're down below 1,100. So we're already at 35% below the original numbers. Now, obviously, those numbers were all originally projected as, what will it take to support this retail facility and mixed-use facility at Market Common. So, and that's converting these or adding these to the total. And we did not exclude anything that was actually under construction or on the books to be built. And this would be the last parcel within Market Common to be completed.
And one of the most common concerns that I get is about the roads. And Mr. Stiers explained to me, and I believe to the rest of council, that when the roads were planned, it was planned for the total build-out of the master plan.
That's correct. That's correct.
So that still holds true, that even adding this much density, the roads will still be, or still designed in a way to hold that additional traffic. That's what was shown in your study.
According to the traffic study we performed, we're at the industry standard for level of service. I think pretty much every intersection in Market Common graded in an A-B range. Acceptable for traffic planning is a D. It'd be like schooling. So D or better is considered a passing grade. And he's correct. There has been some changes. The sports facility was something that came about after the 2004 plan, some other things that have changed the dynamics a little bit in the area. But the TIA is based on today, not something that we performed back in 1995 or 1996.
And the TIA is something that your group did versus having an outside independent entity?
We work directly with staff identifying our study area, identified all the intersections that they wanted us to take counts on and analyze, and then took those counts, true counts taken during school months, so this was pre-summer, and then apply all of the industry standards to traffic generating based on whether it's a single family or a Starbucks or the type of use we're using. Yes, our firm actually does that type of work, as do others.
Any other questions?
I came here today just to listen.
Thank you.
But the project itself is a nice project. It really is. But I just renewed my same concern that I had the first time this project was presented. They're looking at the project on the map. There are two opportunities for people who live in the community to exit out of the community without exiting onto Farrah Parkway, even though they're making a right turn. That exit out of there is in a curve and it's just past a traffic light, and then there's another traffic light. I just, in my mind, in knowing what I've seen about traffic in my career, that I truly believe that if the other two exits in there were used, other than the one coming out on the Farrah Parkway, people could get out of the development and be able to get on the Farrah Parkway without having to turn directly off out of the neighborhood onto Farrah Parkway.
Is there a particular access that concerns you? We have 4 different ones, which is pretty large for this size of project. Is there any particular? We have 2 on Howard, 1 on Phyllis, and then a right-in, right-out only on Farrah.
In our meeting that we had, the idea with those other, correct me if I'm wrong, one of these exits is going to be basically blocked. The one that exits onto, I believe it's Howard right there, or not. Maybe that's not Howard. I can't see what the name of that street is right offhand.
That'd be Howard, sir.
Excuse me.
That'd be Howard.
Howard, and then the one that comes out toward what I'll refer to as kind of like the backside. There's an exit there too. So you have 2 opportunities there for vehicles to exit out of there instead of exiting directly onto Farrah Parkway. That's the same concern I had. I think it was last year, or I believe it whenever it was before.
Are you saying you don't want vehicles to exit on the Farrah Parkway?
Right.
Yeah, we discussed the how.
If there was a traffic light there, I look at this. How many homes are you going to have in there? Units?
189.
189. Okay, that's a minimum two vehicles per household in today's world. That's a minimum. That's a lot of traffic coming and going and coming out at a place where there's not a traffic light. Whereas they have the opportunity to come out on Howard where there is a traffic light. And that helps control that traffic. And that's just been my concern about it more than anything else.
We do see a tendency of traffic, and unfortunately this zoomed in a little bit too tight, but traffic to get on Howard, go to Air Park near the VA clinic, and then be able to go to the Crestwind entrance. And that was something we identified in the TIA, that there's a dual left turn that we actually designed when the terminal was going to be relocated to there. So there's a dual left, one of which is not being even used today. So if we do see those tendencies, we'll continue to work with staff.
Isn't it true that coming out on the one exit, they could travel down to the ITAP area and come out of the traffic light there as well, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's 2 different opportunities there to exit the development without exiting right on Farrah Parkway where there's no traffic light.
I understand what Mr. Louder is saying, but that entrance exit there onto Faro, is that meant to give easy access to people going to the Starbucks and the other shops so they're not driving through that neighborhood to get there?
That would be intended use, to be able to make a right in, circulate, come back out, and make a right out to head toward the bypass or to Coventry Boulevard.
The reason I say that would be there to keep people from driving through the neighborhood.
I think you have a pointer on the podium. Would you please show us the four
I don't want to
exits?
blind anybody. Any other lesson on it? Oh, somebody's got one working. There you go. Oh, okay. So there are two on Howard. You can see just to the right. Maybe can you do? I can't do a zoom in, can you? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So see Lake Park, the Lake Park area along Farrell Parkway there. Whoop. There you go. That would be the right in, right out only that Councilman Louder's referring to. On Phyllis, we're directly across from the access 4810 Bowling. So, we mentioned earlier about parking. The owner of this project owns that facility, and with this conversion from grocery store to 18 Bowling, there tends to be a little additional parking available there. They would be able to control any tenants to direct them to park in that area if there's something going on, open house or something of that nature for the facility. There's one on Howard, just above it. There you go. Perfect. That one we did speak about. If Howard gets extended and enlarged in the future, that access could be converted or closed. It would not negatively impact us, but currently we're thinking. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Never been told quiet. But one access off of Howard and then one at the very top off of Howard. That'd be our four access points for vehicular movement. And then to the far left, we are creating the trail for Linear Park. The edge of the project would be the new Linear Park trail that would have pedestrian bicycle access directly to that. We've got four vehicular access and pedestrian and bicycle access at every.
But you would also have an opportunity for an exit on the Phyllis, is correct? Phyllis as well, correct?
Yes, sir. One across from 810 Bowling. Correct. There's a line, and that's back away from the stacking, and we did analyze the stacking requirements on Phyllis to make sure that we weren't interfering with cars making it on Farrell from Phyllis.
Walter, if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about the one parcel here that's owned by the county. And from what I understand, and having been out there over a year ago now, walking that particular piece of property, that's still under the scrutiny of EPA. Those are my words, maybe not technically correct. And so I'm curious as to what could be the potential effect in a catastrophic storm with that property, whatever is there that EPA is concerned about. I understand at least one report a year has to happen. Is that correct?
Not 100% certain on the reporting frequency, but the area in question was the former valving facility for the Air Force, where they were bringing in fuel. They did have a spill, I believe it was 1975 rain. But it's about 45, 50 years ago now. Their EPA and DHEC monitor that system or review monitoring of that system, and the pollutants, jet fuel, obviously laid on the ground for 50 years is not there anymore. There are pockets of it in some areas of where clays and sands meet each other. So they're monitoring that just to determine exactly where that's migrating and how quickly it's diminishing. So they're using bioremediation, which is natural remediation. They're using bioremediation, so they're continuing to monitor to see how potent the fuels still are. But that's been going on for in excess of 50 years since the original spill occurred.
In relation to the reporting frequency, and I understand you don't have everything right in front of you, but if this development was not for rental units, but single-family homes for sale, would that mean that then the reporting frequency, how would that impact the reporting frequency?
Well, I can't say it's totally against the requirements, but it's highly discouraged of any subdivision of this property, and it may actually be completely against the transfer from the Air Force that it be subdivided into individual lots. In that case, it's more about DHEC and EPA having to reach out to, let's say there's 100 lots, 150 lots. We now have to contend with 150 individual owners, not with a single common ownership like Homefed. So they want it in common ownership. If they do need to come in there and put a pump and do some type of remediation, they're just dealing with one person, not dealing with 150 different people granting their permission. So that's in the restrictions that were brought forth when the Air Force turned this over to Colonel Stires' group.
Any other questions?
I do have one comment. Right above where you've got the word plaza and about a half inch up, is there not a way that you could put another entrance right there? That parking lot where it kind of elbows, you know where I'm talking about?
Right where Pointer is? Sorry, we can't.
Here.
Yeah. I see the Plaza, Starbucks, and Plaza, and right above Plaza.
Yeah, so right there.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I can't see the point on it.
I'm sorry.
So right there where the
issue there is, like I pointed out earlier, you've got stacking for a right turn. So they would be entering an exit where people are stacking and waiting to make the right turn on the Farrah Parkway. So you don't want to mix those two movements. Plus, that's the drop-off. We did, and Jim can speak to this a little more in detail, we did want to internalize the Starbucks drive-through to make sure it was not immediately adjacent to the public street. So as you can tell, it has been pulled internal. It's screened by plazas on all sides, plus the building. So this will be a unique situation where you're not driving down the street saying, oh, there's a drive-through right over there. You're going to have to go into the facility and then use the drive-through. But that would create a conflict between the right turn and the, and as I said, we have 4 access points, even with 3 access points. A project of this size would typically have 2 minimum. Third would generally be just based on the layout of the property. In this case, we actually have 4 access points. Granted, one's a limited access, being Farrah Parkway.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not a traffic engineer and don't pretend to be one. You've done a traffic study.
Right.
This is the last residential parcel in the master plan. Do we not have other residential communities in Market Common that have less than 4 access points with much more density?
Definitely. I mean, the cottages just to the left of this has 1 access point for it. It's not quite of this size, probably half to a third the number of units, but yeah, typically it'd be 2 access points. But if we can create another access point and distribute traffic better, then those intersections tend to work better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
One more, and then I'm going to have some questions after everybody has a chance to make their presentation. Currently, this property is zoned commercial, correct?
It has a straight zoning of C6, which is a mixed use. We're here to amend the master plan, which is kind of the guiding document for all of C6 Zone Market Common.
And so
But the intended use originally was for big
amending the
box
master plan means you would be bringing this particular area into the master plan. Is that correct? Or is it already part of the master plan?
It's part of the master plan, has been from day one. It was originally 180,000+ square foot Macy's department store. If you look at the Market Common master plan, there are actually elevations of the store. Macy's not on the store, but for those of us in those Macy's stores, that's pretty much what it was. So, but yes, this is part of the master plan. We're just amending the master plan for this new use.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. You want that, Jim?
Mayor and Council, good to see you again.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we'll flip over to the Starbucks presentation. Okay, great. So I'm really here just to talk about the Starbucks component of the project, and we're really excited to bring this to the Market Common. As you know, Starbucks is a really strong neighborhood feeling and character to it, and we've been working with Starbucks Corporation directly on this project for a little while now, and they're very excited about it. There are a couple of key tenets that we wanted to make sure that we satisfied as far as how this store was going to fit into the master plan. And first and foremost was that it had to have a strong sense of the Market Common, meaning that it needed to be a store that addresses pedestrian access, not only addresses it, but enhances the sort of outdoor-indoor character of the Market Common. And we were also really strongly thinking about how that design was going to expand the Market Common and its character across Phyllis. And as Walter mentioned, the way the master plan anticipates growing the Market Common pedestrian character down Howard, the corner, of course, is a very important anchor point here. So we'll go through the slides kind of briefly. The design inspiration for us here is very much a coastal character that is tropical in nature, you know, coffee and inspiration like that. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is a view from the main corner, and you'll notice that the way the design of the site is laid out, the queuing area is hidden in behind the store. So the main character, the design of the store itself from Phyllis and also from Faro is of the front entry of the store as it should be. So we'll keep going. So this is on Faro, looking back towards the bowling alley, which would be onto the right of this screen there. Next view. We have a mural in mind, and if we go to the next view, you'll see where that's positioned. So this is from the parking lot, which is at the back of the store. But we did not want the store to look like that was just the back of it. You know, granted, functionally, that's where the queuing area is in the drive-through. But we've got that custom hand-painted mural on that backside there. And then you can see the patio. We'll go back one, sorry. You can see the patio on the left-hand side of the screen there. And adjacent to that is a large plaza, which will be right on the corner for even further opportunities for folks to gather there as part of the community and enjoy their time there. We have a couple of views of the inside of the store, just to kind of give you a sense of the quality and the character that we're going for here. This is very much intended to be inside out, and in other words, the design character of the inside of the store blends to the exterior and vice versa. That's it. Here to answer any questions, should you have any.
Jim, you said adjacent to the patio was a plaza. Is that a privately owned space that's open to the public?
So the plaza itself, if we go back to the site plan, probably, and then you have to switch presentations. Keep going. And there, that shows just an edge of it. Councilman Smith, the Starbucks private area is underneath that canopy and just beyond it. So we're sort of hiding the fence with some landscaping there. But everything on the screen there to the right is a public plaza that is being put in as open space for the development.
And it will be owned by HomeFed, or it will be owned by?
HomeFed is my understanding. Yeah.
It's privately owned but publicly accessible.
Correct. Yep.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
Beautiful
it.
design.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone else to present? And because this is workshop, we typically do not take public comment, but many of you are here today specifically for this topic. So at the will of council, I will ask if they are willing to hear any public comment on this subject.
Yes, it's true.
Okay. And we have approximately 40 minutes, so have any of you signed up to talk about this topic?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes. I was going to give extra time. Okay. Can't read it?
No.
Mayor.
I see the first name is Carl.
Falls craft.
Yes, please, and we'll follow the same rules as we would for a council meeting. If you would state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, my name is Carl Falsgraf. I'm on the board of the HOA of the Reserve, and we were one of the developments that the HomeFed people met with. We had 2 meetings with them. And so what I thought might be useful is for you to get a little perspective of the residents, what we felt of the HomeFed presentation, as well as we subsequently held a meeting with our residents to inform them about what we had learned. So I think it's fair to say that when we had our open homeowners meeting and the topic of Market Walk 2.0 came up, there was a lot of interest. And when we walked into that room with our homeowners there, you could tell there was a lot of very skeptical people about this development, because when this development came up a year and a half ago, we had surveyed our residents to see, what do you think about this proposed housing development on that corner? What do you think? 90% of our residents were opposed to this. So when we came into this session, we were pretty sure we were going to have a lot of, disenchanted people. And by the time this presentation was over, I would say that most of the people were either supportive or neutral, which was a dramatic change from a year ago. But the other thing I want to mention is there was a percentage of people, let's say a quarter, who were opposed. And they would be opposed to any development going in there unless, it was like a bird sanctuary, right? They are against development. And you have to understand why, because I think it's a reasonable objection. They're saying that Myrtle Beach is becoming unrecognizable. There's too much development, too much traffic. So they look at this and say, okay, it's better than before, but it's still 400 cars feeding out onto Farrow Parkway. We don't want 400 more cars on Farrow Parkway. Now, whether that's a legitimate point of view or not, that is a point of view. And so one of the ways that we were discussing with the HomeFed people is this notion of extending Howard Avenue down to Nash. Because if you do that, now you take some of that traffic pressure off of Farrow. You give it another outlet to flow out to 17. So we would urge the council to consider, as part of this project, we understand it can't happen at the same time, but at least this notion of, if you're going to put more development down there, you got to find another way to get traffic in and out of there. So that's the first point. The second point I'd like to make is the importance of public information about this development. Because as I said, the people who showed up, and after our presentation, I would say most were neutral or supportive. But those are the people who showed up. The people who don't show up are going to be very opposed to it. And so it's incumbent upon HomeFed and the council to get the word out to the rest of the residents of Market Common. The presentation that HomeFed put on for us is a good presentation. They have a good story. You may not agree with it, but it's a good presentation. It's a good story. So I would urge HomeFed and the council to consider more public meetings in Market Common to make sure people understand what's going on. So when it comes time for people to make a decision, they're informed. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Did anyone else sign up? Okay. All right, well, that will conclude our workshop unless council has any agenda items that you want to discuss before the meeting.
I'd just like to follow up on what Mr. Falscraft presented to us. I do agree, based on input that I'm getting from around the Market Common area, not his neighborhood or Crestwind as an example, but throughout the Market Common area. I think it would be a great idea to have at least one more, what I'll call a community meeting, maybe at the Reed Recreation Center, where you can get seating for 50, 60, 70, even up to 100 individuals, to let them understand where the project was a year and a half ago, where it is today, and present all of these changes that they're talking about. I second Mr. Falscraft's comment about Howard Avenue, and I understand that that's going to take a lot of effort, not only with council, but county, the Fed, money to get it done. But I think without the extension of Howard, we're just setting ourselves up for a lot of trouble as we move forward. So at any rate, Mr. Falscraft, thank you for your comments. I think they're very important.
Any other comments from council before we leave workshop? All right. Thank you all for being here very much. And we can call this morning's city council meeting to order. We have a lot of people here today, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get everyone in their places, and I would ask if you would please silence your cell phones. And at this time, if you would rise and join council as Mr. Louder leads us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, if you wish.
Let us pray. Father, we gather today at this meeting. Lord, we thank you for the blessings of life. We're so thankful for, Lord, how you've blessed our city and our communities in the area. And Lord, as we go through this meeting today, that let us do this meeting in harmony, and let's all understand that when decisions are made, that what we need to do is make decisions that are best for the residents in our city and our business community as well. Lord, again, we thank you for all you've done. We thank you for all you continue to do. And Lord, in all these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, council has had time to look over today's agenda. May I please have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. The approval of our meeting minutes from July 23rd, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made from Mr. McClure, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. You can see that we have a beautiful group from our community here with us today, and that is because we are going to be doing a proclamation declaring and honoring Ukrainian Independence Day. Meredith? Come on in, there's plenty of room.
Come on, don't be shy. And as they're coming in, we do want to thank you all for being here today, and Anastasia for reaching out. This is the first time we are doing this proclamation here at the city. As you all probably remember, we did do the resolution in support of the Ukrainian people last year. So we'll go ahead and get started. A proclamation for Ukrainian Independence Day, August 24th, 2024. Whereas August 24th, 2024 marks the 33rd anniversary of Ukraine's Independence Day, the country's most important state holiday commemorating the adoption of the Act of Declaration of Independence of Ukraine. And whereas more than 300,000 Ukrainians called for independence from the Soviet Union in 1990, and the first step towards establishing a democratic nation was taken in December 1991, when more than 90% of Ukrainian citizens voted in support of independence. And whereas the city of Myrtle Beach joined other communities and nations in 2023 to voice our support for Ukraine's sovereignty as an independent, peaceful nation and against Russia's unprovoked attacks through a resolution. And whereas Myrtle Beach proudly contributes to South Carolina, being home to the largest Ukrainian population per capita in the United States, with Ukrainian Americans making significant contributions to our society and enriching our state with their traditions. And whereas increased awareness and understanding of Ukraine's struggles and achievements are important in fostering solidarity and support for the Ukrainian people in their pursuit of peace and justice. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Myrtle Beach City Council hereby designates Saturday, August 24th, 2024 as Ukrainian Independence Day and celebrates the occasion. Signed and sealed this 13th day of August, 2024. Anastasia? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, respectful City Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for having us here. This is a truly historic moment for all of us, for the relationship between the City of Myrtle Beach and the Ukrainian community. This is a very small part of our community, but trust me, we are super grateful to be here. I've been living in Myrtle Beach for 11 years. I own my business here. But I'm also a daughter of a brave warrior who's fighting right now on the front lines of Ukraine to protect free world and United States as well, to protect the same values that United States are standing for. Together here with me, we have the family who came to Myrtle Beach as a first family of refugees almost 3 years ago. We have family who adopted kids from Ukraine during big war. We have people who own businesses in Ukraine, different levels, and we are beyond honored to be here, to open our businesses here, to invest in the cultural life of Myrtle Beach, to invest in the religious life of Myrtle Beach. We now have Ukrainian Orthodox Church here, and we have our services in Greek Orthodox Church, so we're very close with many, many communities, but we are beyond grateful to the City of Myrtle Beach. We are beyond grateful to South Carolina and to United States of America for giving us home, for giving us hope, and for standing strong with the same values as Ukraine is standing for. Thank you very much. God bless America, and Slava Ukraini.
Thank you.
This is Maria, and her family, and her mom is here, and her grandparents are here. They were the first family who fled here from Ukraine when the city of Sumy that my father is serving at right now was bombed. And she prepared a little presents for Madam Mayor and the council. Хочешь сказати щось? Okay. Can we shake all of your hands? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Lovely painting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Upstate New York.
You're welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry. As soon as we start, we start.
Spread out along the front here. There you go. That's a little better. Very nice.
We can't help but be optimistic after that presentation. Okay, and even though it is not on the agenda, do we have a public information update today?
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. I am here
morning.
to give the public information update. We are happy to report no damages in the city of Myrtle Beach due to Tropical Storm Debbie. Ahead of the next storm, please remember to not block any storm drains near or on your property. The city manages 9,500 storm drains along city-owned roads, which equals about 185 miles. If you notice a storm drain that is clogged, please call Public Works at 843-918-2000. Expect to see construction signage, traffic barrels, and demolition in preparation for the Highway 501 realignment project in the Arts and Innovation District beginning next week. Before the realignment work begins, crews will replace water and sewer lines along 7th Avenue North, add storm drainage along portions of Broadway Street and Kings Highway, and clear boundaries for the new road. The RIDE 3 funded project will straighten Highway 501 and align it with 7th Avenue North rather than Main Street. Highway 501 will then connect with Kings Highway at 7th Avenue North. Phase 1 of the Market Common tree and sidewalk replacement project is underway. Crews will remove trees that are damaging sidewalks, replace damaged sidewalks, and plant new trees along a portion of Shine Avenue to Pampas Drive. Construction is scheduled to begin Monday, August 19th on the city's 5th Ocean Outfall at 24th Avenue North. This is a picture from a previous outfall project. When complete, the outfall will replace 11 pipes currently on the beach. The 24th Avenue North beach access will be closed while construction is underway for the next 2 years. Please join us for the annual Back to School Walk at Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium at 7 p.m. Sunday, August 18th. Classes resume Monday, August 19th in Horry County Schools. Everyone is invited to join this walk through the Myrtle Beach school campuses as we pray, listen to music, and enjoy free dessert from Nola's stuffed snowballs. Applications for the next session of the popular Citizens Police Academy are now available. The class meets from 6 to 8 p.m. every Monday for 9 weeks at the Myrtle Beach Police Annex in the Market Common. The 45th Citizens Police Academy classes begins Monday, September 30th. The application is available on our website, cityofmyrtlebeach.com. Everyone is invited to the Unity Memorial in Warburg Park at 10 a.m. Wednesday, September 11th for Myrtle Beach's September 11th Remembrance Ceremony. This will be the 23rd anniversary of the terrorist attacks that claimed nearly 3,000 lives. The Myrtle Beach Fire Department is hosting Family Movie Night. Bring the whole family to watch a movie Saturday, September 7th at Fire Station number 6. Free popcorn will be available. Parents, bring your students to the free back-to-school book bag giveaway set for 6 to 8 p.m. Friday, August 16th. next to the Patrick Mobile Home Park. That's 1908 Highway 15. The event features vendors, free food, games, music, and free school supplies. For more information, contact the Neighborhood Services Department at 918-1062. Thank you.
Thank you, Chastity. Do we have any non-agenda items from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we will move on to today's consent agenda, please.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and Council. For this morning's consent agenda, you have 2 items for your consideration. The first one is Motion 2024-71, authorizing the city to apply for a grant in the amount of $20,000 from Mars Pet Cares Better Cities for Pets for the purpose of developing a pet-friendly natural surface at Grand Park. There is no match required for that grant. And the second item is Resolution 2024-19 to accept a dedication of certain roadways known as White Bark Drive, Lace Bark Trail, Shortleaf Path, Knob Cone Loop, Bristle Cone Court, and Canary Island Court within the preserve at Pine Lakes Development.
Okay, I didn't get some of those names. Do you want to go over those?
I was just trying to figure out how they come up with these names.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay, is there a motion to approve today's consent agenda items?
Second.
Motion made from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. The first item on our regular agenda is the first reading of Ordinance 2024-49.
First reading of Ordinance 2024-49, approving execution of an easement agreement between the City of Myrtle Beach as grantor and DC Blocks, Inc. as grantee concerning a portion of property having PIN number 44315030038, owned by the City of Myrtle Beach.
Thank you, Jen. Good morning, Mayor, members of council. As we've discussed before, we've been working through this easement at Hurl Rock Park with DC Blocks for some time. Just as a recap, this will be their second landing station. Their first landing station, if you recall, is in the state park where they came around with they have the capacity for 5 subsea cables there. They've gone from the state park to ITAP through Market Common, and they've now connected that. They are already in the process of expanding their data center, their data warehouse in ITAP. The second landing station will give them the capacity to accept 4 new additional subsea cables. We believe that this is the only place, at least on the East Coast, if not in the U.S., that will have 9 subsea cables. That sets us up again to move toward our diversification of the economy and our Smart Cities initiative and all of the economic diversification efforts that we've talked about here. These subsea cables lend themselves to that and really give us a leg up, so to speak, and a competitive advantage. The easement itself will come into Hurl Rock Park. It will take up some portion of that. You can see on the image there. It's obviously there's a lot of squiggly lines there, but for all intensive purposes, we will commit to try to stay out of Hurl Rock Park as much as we possibly can once we get the construction here. The construction will not deter from us being able to use it. We'll continue to be able to park. You will not see any of these. There will not be any above ground infrastructure there once the construction is finished. They will pay us $200,000 as compensation for the easement, which is more than what they've paid the state park in that project. So we'll happy to answer any specific questions there. The construction will be in the off season, so we're not going to take up that street end during prime season. So we're comfortable with that. Trying to see if I hit any. Again, standard insurance and business license requirements. I think that's the high part. This would be just the street, and we'll continue to work with them on connecting Hurl Rock Park to DC Blocks down Harrelson and Fred Nash. So we still have to work through that process, but that's a much more standard process than a street end easement. So happy to answer any questions. Amy is here. Amy's either over caffeinated or jet lagged. She came back from vacation yesterday, maybe a combination of the two things. So, but I'm sure she can answer any specific questions if need be.
Okay, let's get a motion on the table, and then we'll ask for any questions. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-49?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Louder. Any discussion or questions from council?
Brian, you said after they've completed the construction, we'll have full use of the area and everything will be underground. Like we see a lot of stuff on this map, but it's all underground. It's just going to be paved like it is with parking spaces afterwards.
Correct. Fully utilized.
Just, okay, when it gets out to the boulevard area, you don't have a design or a plan at this time as to where it goes from there to go out to the ITAP?
They're still working through that. It comes up to Kings, crosses Kings, goes all the way down Harrelson. You're crossing into city roads, county roads, state roads, so they're in the process of negotiating all of the engineering associated with that. The hope right now is that they can tie into Fred Nash before the Fred Nash project is completed, and then route it down Fred Nash, back down Emory, and then back over to ITAP. But again, they don't have the specific meets and bounds and surveys at this point for that. But I think they wanted to get through this and make sure the starting point was understood and agreed on before they moved ahead with the rest of it.
As we move through this process, let's just make sure that there's a lot of communication out there for people, residents, and
Yes, sir.
and even our commercial right-of-ways, that people are aware of what's taking place and any disruption of traffic there may be.
And we will certainly do that again. Once that process begins of installing the lines in the right-of-way, it will look like a very standard construction project where we're putting in fiber or some other utility. So that process is a lot more defined. This one's a little bit more unique.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Brian, they're taking a different path to the same place on this one for redundancy and backup, and it's just a smart business model. In case something happens on one path, they've still got the other path.
Correct. And these
fully
cables, these cables will be coming from different places, but there will be essentially a redundancy loop, which is critical to that. I mean, none of us want our Netflix to be interrupted when we have a cable cut, so this allows some redundancy.
Any other questions from council? Okay, any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. First reading of ordinance 2024-50.
First reading of ordinance 2024-50 to annex 2.88 acres at the corner of 48th Avenue North and Wild Iris Drive, PIN number 420-1102-0045, into the city of Myrtle Beach, and to rezone the property from Horry County GR General Residential to Myrtle Beach HC1 Highway Commercial.
Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself from this one because my wife works with the current property owner.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What you have here is a request from Myrtle Beach Farms to annex and rezone or place a zoning classification on this piece of property. There we go. The blue star designates the piece of property in question is currently zoned GR in the county. There it shows the property with the star on it again. It's adjacent to RMV in the city limits, which is residential multifamily vacation, which allows the short-term vacation rental, which in a sense is a commercial use. It also abuts the HC1 through the extension of the 48th Avenue roadway up to the property. Met with representatives from Myrtle Beach Farms to discussed this. Not only discussed this piece of property, but we kind of discussed future use of possible Myrtlewood Golf Course and the properties along the Intercoastal Waterway. We as a staff feel that the properties along the Intercoastal Waterway, which are currently zoned resort commercial, stand their best chance of being developed in more along those lines with that commercial style development in there. And looking for the fit for the use that they wanted to do on this piece of property, a lot of things came into play, spot zoning, things along those lines, things of that nature. As we said earlier, they're looking to be zoned HC1 for the purpose of constructing an office building on that property. If you would currently look, it's currently zoned GR, which is general residential in the county. But in the GR in the county, they do allow in the GR as a special exception offices, administrative, professional, and things along those lines. We looked at several different zoning classifications. It's kind of hard to find a best fit whenever you've got multiple zoning classifications in such an area. But we arrived through the meetings with the applicant and through our staff with what we thought was the best one to move forward with to present to Planning Commission and to present to you as a council. It was approved by Planning Commission on a vote of 4-2. Be glad to answer any questions or provide further comment.
Okay, let us get a motion on the table. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-50?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion from Mr. Chestnut, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion or questions from council? Ken, 2.88 acres. If this developer chooses not to build an office building, what else could be built there on that size parcel?
It might be easy to tell you what couldn't.
Okay.
I mean, it's zoned HC1. HC1 that we currently have is Highway 501 coming into town, to give you an example of that. But again, I'm just sharing facts with you right here. The RMV, which is currently zoned in the city, yes, it is a residential zoning classification, but it allows the short-term rentals, so it allows that commercial component of that in that RMV. You do have the HC1 roadway of 48th that does lead up to the corner of the property. And I think you've got to look at this not just from taking in this one piece of property where the star is designated at, but you've also got to look at future from there to the Intercoastal Waterway of what could happen in that property. And those were all the things that came up in our discussion with the applicant, who is present here today as well. And those are all the things that came up in the discussion. It wasn't looking for the number one fit as much as it was looking for the best fit with everything that we had to factor in and what we had to choose from.
And Planning Commission approved this 4-2. The two members that voted against this, what were their concerns?
Unknown.
They didn't specify.
I mean, and the commercial component of it again, but I think his fear of the unknown is the biggest thing that they were going against, and that of putting the commercial next to existing residential, there would be buffer requirements between our commercial properties and the residential properties in there as well. One of the other things that we looked at was the MUM zoning classification. But in looking at it from the MUM zoning classification, you really don't have on the back of that property is where you've got the lake. Up toward the front of the stars where you've got all the pine trees. One of the other classifications that we were looking at was the MUM zoning classification. But the MUM zoning classification requires that there be no parking between the building and the streets. That's where a majority of the pine trees exist at. It's a whole lot easier to work parking into pine trees than it is to work a building into pine trees. Plus, one of the sales of this piece of property, not that it really comes into play, but it does, is that they wanted to be built back further toward the lake aspect of it. And so that's why we settled on the HC1, because it was process of elimination where this one won't fit, this one won't fit. And then it also came up into the possibility of spot zoning. 2.8 acres is kind of a push. We normally say at least 3 to 5 for it not to be spot, and we're coming in at 2.88.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. First reading of ordinance 2024-51.
First reading of ordinance 2024-51 to rezone 8.83 acres and the adjacent rights-of-way along South Ocean Boulevard, Cassandra Lane, Sand Dunes Drive, 22nd Avenue South, and 21st Avenue South from Plan Unit Development, 21st Avenue South PUD, to MUH Mixed Use High Density.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So to give you a brief background, I'll try to make this as brief as I can. The 21st Avenue South PUD was originally adopted in 2004 and had 5 construction phases built into it. After the PUD was approved, fast forward 10 years to 2014, the city had a complete zoning rewrite. And so the zoning that is in place now around this PUD, which is the MUH zoning, wasn't in place in 2004 when this original PUD was developed or was adopted. And when we moved forward to 2014 in the zoning rewrite, we had a lot of oceanfront PUDs, and we drew a lot of our MUH regulations from the PUDs that had been approved. So a lot of what was allowed and what was required in this PUD was eventually adopted into the surrounding zoning, which is MUH. So that gives you a little bit of background on the PUD itself. The reason that we're even here today is because some of the PUD was constructed and some of it wasn't, and I'll go through that step by step in a minute. But we had one property owner in the PUD. Their property was not developed according to the PUD. It is now, 2024, and they're trying to sell the property. The PUD requires that a parking garage go on this property, parking garage to support a tower that was never built. So the property owner was stuck, and that's why we're here today. The property owner came to the Planning Commission, asked to be rezoned out of the PUD. Planning Commission took a look at the PUD and realized that the properties are so intertwined and the development and the zoning is so intertwined that we couldn't really remove just one parcel from the PUD. We were going to have to, if we were going to move forward, the only solution is to revoke the entire PUD. So, to go through it a little bit, what you see on the screen now is the outline of the PUD itself. You can see it goes all the way from the oceanfront back to the 4th row, and it's a total of 18 parcels. And here's an aerial view of the same area so you can get an idea of what's there. And this is the zoning map. And you can see that the PUD, which is in pink kind of in the center of the screen, is completely surrounded by the MUH zoning district, which is what we are suggesting that the PUD be rezoned to. So, like I said, the PUD was originally planned in 5 phases. The first was the Grand Atlantic phase that you can see in the red circle on your screen. The building that was there at the time was torn down, and a new tower, the Grand Atlantic, was built and completed in 2006. So phase 1 was complete. Phase 2 was a second tower on the Paradise property. The building that was on the Paradise properties was torn down. The new Paradise Tower was built, and to support that, parking lots were built on the 2nd and 3rd row. The first phase tower had the parking on site. So the second phase tower, parking on the 2nd and 3rd row. And that was completed in 2008. Phase 3 was to be a third tower between phase 1 and phase 2. It's the Reef Resort. There is an old tower there that was supposed to have been demolished and a new tower constructed. And that never happened. According to the PUD, the construction schedule for Phase 3 said that it had to be built by 2010. Phase 4 was a fourth tower, being on the second row on the corner of 21st Avenue and Ocean Boulevard. It also included an amenity center on 22nd Avenue South and parking garages on the third row to support the tower, really all of the towers, but the trigger for it was all of this was the fourth tower. That was supposed to be constructed in Phase 4. It was supposed to be completed by 2012, and none of that ever was. The fifth phase on the fourth row is the Firebird townhouses. The row to the top of your screen was actually constructed. The row on the corner of 21st Avenue South was not. So Phase 5 was partially constructed. And that was supposed to be the end of the PUD, fully built out by 2014. So with every PUD, there are public improvements required. I know this is a messy screen, but just to tell you what was constructed, all of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 improvements were installed, and all of the monies, then the fees, the alley swap fee, there was an alley involved in Phase 2, and all of the public improvement fees for Phases 1 and 2 were collected. And with that, we got sidewalks along the Phase 1 and Phase 2, adjacent to the Phase 1 and Phase 2 towers. We got street lighting installed along Ocean Boulevard and along 21st Avenue South, as well as the utilities underground on Ocean Boulevard and on 21st Avenue South. And there were 2 public beach accesses that were improved, one in Phase 1 and one in Phase 2. What wasn't completed, the only thing that wasn't completed that remained in Phases 3 through 5 were the adjacent public sidewalks to those 3 phases. One on Ocean Boulevard adjacent to the third tower, on Ocean Boulevard adjacent to the fourth tower, and along 21st Avenue South. But it's kind of important to go back to one of the things I said at the beginning. A lot of the requirements in the PUDs in general were incorporated into the MUH zoning district. So if you all decide to rezone the PUD to MUH, the sidewalks adjacent to these properties are going to be required when they develop anyway. That's a requirement of the MUH, as is undergrounding the utilities for new development. So, to sum up, Phases 1 and 2 were completed. All the fees that were required in Phases 1 and 2 have been collected. The public improvements for Phases 1 and 2 were completed. There has been significant investment in the existing properties for where the Phase 3 tower was supposed to go and the property where the Phase 4 tower was supposed to go. A lot of these properties have changed hands. They're no longer in unified control. The new owners of those 2 properties have invested money into renovating those buildings, so it is unlikely anytime soon that they are going to be torn down and redeveloped. And like I said before, the PUD ran out 10 years ago. So this is kind of our first go at revoking a PUD. The requirements in our PUD ordinance, our PUD regulations require that we have 90 days notice on a public hearing and that the developer need to be notified. We had interesting discussion at the staff level as to exactly who the developer is now in 2014. So we sent certified letters 90 days out to everybody who was a property owner at the time, listed on the applications as property owner at the time of the PUD, everybody that was representing the property owners at the time of the PUD, and the same for any amendment that has happened to the PUD between then and now. That was a total of 14 certified letters that we sent out. We got several back, which was no surprise to us when we saw the list. We know that some of those firms are no longer in business and some of the people on the list are no longer with us. But we sent them. We got return receipts on 10 of them. We had 4 of them returned undelivered. In addition to that,
30 days before the public hearing, or 10 days before the public hearing, we had to send certified letters to everybody in the PUD, not certified letters, but notification letters to everybody in the PUD and everybody within 300 feet of the PUD, which is our standard operating procedure for any rezoning. So that was an additional 876 letters that went out. And we got a lot of phone calls as a result of all of those letters, a lot of people asking questions. It's very difficult to explain everything I just explained to you in one letter. But we didn't have, once we explained everything to the people with questions, we didn't have anybody opposed to revoking this PUD and rezoning everything to MUH. So I think that's about all I have. I know it's a lot, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The representative for the original applicant who had the one property that wanted to pull out of the PUD to begin with is here if you have any questions of him.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-51?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Smith, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion or questions from council?
Is revoking the PUD going to put any hardship on places that have already been redeveloped? Will it make them non-conforming?
The two towers that have been developed will be non-conforming, which is an interesting parallel to the rest of the beach. Like I said, when we did the zoning rewrite in 2014, we changed a lot of the regulations along the ocean front in the MUH section. Just about every property in the MUH is non-conforming because of the rewrite. And they will be those two towers will be non-conforming primarily on their setbacks.
But isn't it true, though, even though they're non-conforming, they can still continue to operate as is until at such time either one of those properties was to close without a business license for a year? And then at that time, if someone opened it back up, it would have to be opened back under the current zone. Is that correct?
I think the grandfather that we're discussing has more to do with the redevelopment of the property. If they wanted to expand, they would have to meet the current setbacks, things like that. And right now, those two properties would become non-conforming, but if we didn't rezone them out of the PUD, all the other 16 properties will remain non-conforming because they're all non-conforming in the PUD. If that makes sense. So it's either have two non-conforming on the rezoning or have the rest of them non-conforming under the PUD.
Does that answer your question?
Let me try to address that for you, Mr. Kelly did a very good job of explaining everything, and she is right. They are going to be non-conforming, but they're non-conforming because of the setbacks. One of the first slides that she goes through here to show you under the phase one for the Grand Atlantic, that's an existing hotel. They meet all their parking requirements. Okay, normally with PUDs, it's your piece of property is tied up with somebody else's parking lot. In this situation, that's not the case. If you look at the Paradise Tower, you see the Paradise Tower and you see the parking lots directly across the street. So this will always meet parking requirements. That's the biggest thing that we were looking at from our standpoint, because Kelly's absolutely correct. Whenever we increased our setbacks to 10, 20, and 30 feet on the boulevard, unless you are a building that's been built since 2014, you are probably non-conforming, which gets back to what you said. You've got the 12 years to rebuild in the same footprint. Kelly was also right from the standpoint, if you look to do any additions to the property, you're going to have to meet today's setbacks. The only other thing that you could have on that was if in today's footprint, they still did not meet today's flood requirements, they would have to come into compliance with the flood requirements, which may mean elevating the building a little bit more or something along those lines, but the footprint could stay the same. But it could have also changed to where they may have been in the flood zone at the adoption of this PUD, and they may have been taken out with the recent remodifications that we've had. As a staff, we've reviewed this up one side and down the other. Kelly carrying the majority of the load, which is why she did the presentation. As a staff, we all feel comfortable moving forward with this, and that there won't be any loose ends that are going to come back on us as far as meeting the basic requirements, as far as meeting your parking count and things along those lines. Is that kind of what you were?
As far as uses go, as you know, when you were talking about business license and being closed for 12 months, the permitted use is the same in the MUH and in the PUD. So use-wise, it doesn't matter.
Any other questions from council? Any discussion from the public? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Kelly. First reading of ordinance 2024-52.
First reading of ordinance 2024-52 to amend Article 2 of the zoning code to add a definition for racket sport facilities, indoor, outdoor, and to amend section 1407C of the zoning code to add racket sport facilities, indoor, outdoor, as a permitted use in the LM Light Manufacturing District zoning district.
Good morning. Here we are again discussing the LM zoning classification. What we have here before you today is simple in the nature of the request. These are all your LM zoning classifications that currently exist in the city. The one that we're focusing on today is the one furthest left of the screen, which is at the old Air Force Base. But this would apply to all the LM zoning classifications that are currently in existence in the city. This just zooms in on the market common area, light manufacturing zone that we're talking about. This is actually a map that shows all of the properties and their current and how they're currently occupied in that area. You'll see the one in red, the vacant building. That is right next to number 9, which is currently Tidal Creek Brew House. On this lot next to them is currently a vacant building. They're looking to sign a 20-year lease on that building to go in there with a facility to have indoor and outdoor pickleball courts, as well as the continuation of the brewery side of it probably as well with that property too. The applicant is not here today in regard to this. He called and let us know that he would not be here. So basically all they're asking is a roundabout ways to have pickleball as a permitted use in the LM zoning classification. And speaking with the zoning administrator in regard to this as well, he came up with the idea, which I agree with, of doing it with the indoor, outdoor, and racket sports facilities. That way we cover tennis, pickleball, and possibly racquetball.
What about badminton?
Sure.
What about ping
pong?
What about ping pong?
Table tennis, Greg, table tennis.
Yeah, I'll give that as already allowed as a...
Okay, I just want to make sure we're going to cover all of them.
Yes, ma'am. And if you want to provide some clarity, we can. But again, that's the request that's here before you today. I could sit here and go on more, but I think it might be better to open it up to questions from y'all as a board.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-52?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I think if what they're wanting to do out there is put racquetball, that has got to be one of the most growing activities I've seen in years. Pickleball. I'm sorry, did I say racquetball?
You said racquetball.
Pickleball. Just passing by our facility on Highway 17 South, there are people out there at 6:15 in the morning ready to roll, and it's there like that all day long. So I think it's a great idea.
That's one of the reasons that we think LM might be a good location for it. Not that there truly is any manufacturing going on out there currently right now, but that is a zoning classification where the intrusiveness of it fits in better there than it would anywhere else in the city. And so that was a big lean toward this location as well.
Thank you, Ken. Any other discussion from council?
I just want to be sure, Ken, in doing this, is this going to affect all areas that are zoned LN at this point in time?
Yes, sir.
So no matter where they are?
No matter where they are.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ken.
Thank y'all.
Motion 2024-72.
Motion 2024-72 to accept a land donation at 16th Avenue South, PIN number 443-1502-0041, TMS number 181-131-0002, from Fowler 17th Property LLC.
Good morning. So Mr. Buddy Lindsay is the executor of the Fowler Property LLC, and he approached the city about donating the 16th Avenue South parcel to the city for our workforce housing initiative. It's about 1/4 of an acre. It is near the Walmart neighborhood market on the south end. So. But it is, there's a retention pond beside the Walmart neighborhood market or across the street from it. It is on the back side of that retention pond, 2 parcels over. This is the street view of it. The donated property is on the left, and you would see the retention pond, 2 parcels down, and then the adjacent property. Any questions?
Okay, let's get a motion on the table. Is there a motion to approve motion 2024-72?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McClure, second from Dr. Connor. Any questions or comments from council?
I think this is a great opportunity.
Brooke, the property does have to be used for workforce housing, correct?
I put workforce housing or other public benefit.
Okay, or public benefit. All right, thank you. Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Motion 2024-73.
Motion 2024-73 to direct the city manager and staff to negotiate a new beach franchise agreement with one or more companies for city council's consideration.
Yes, ma'am. You recall our current beach franchise expires at the end of September. We did an RFP. We had 4 companies submit a bid, and this is just instructing staff to negotiate with the beach advisory committees to come back with council with a proposed agreement for your consideration here in the probably next 60 days.
Okay, is there a motion to approve motion 2024-74? I'm sorry, 73.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Smith, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Fox, the only thing I would ask for the Beach Advisory Committee to look at is the 2 companies that we had this year in our franchisees, about their staffing, and if we need to give more area to one of them versus the other based on how they are able to staff the area that they cover.
We will consider that.
To make sure that we have proper coverage. Anything else from council? Okay. Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2024-74.
Motion 2024-74 to declare certain vehicles abandoned or derelict pursuant to the authority of Article 41 of Title 56, South County Code of Laws, 2001.
Okay, and when we get these vehicles on the screen, I will ask if there's anyone here who represents any of them.
Motion to declare.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion for Mr. Louder, second for Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Any non-agenda items from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, do we have any communications from council or staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
You know, we've had discussion some time back about the some type of a historical monument at the Ocean Forest roundabout, so to speak, on Portia. In looking through some of the possible roadblocks that could be there for establishing that monument on that property, number one, that's owned by DOT. And there could be, if we tried to move forward, there's a number of hoops that would have to be jumped through. So I just want to throw this out to council. You know, we accept roads that are conveyed to us all the time. And it's my understanding now, this is just my understanding, that there's a possibility that DOT would convey that over to us. And I would just like to suggest that we reach out and see if that's a possibility that can be done. I'm not sure where everything is at with as far as the finances on this particular monument. However, I think it is. I really do think it's a great idea. Ocean Forest Hotel is probably one of the most iconic landmarks that's probably been in Myrtle Beach, other than the beach. And I think it's a great opportunity to preserve that part of history here in Myrtle Beach. So I just want to throw that out there and see what the consensus of the council might be as far as looking forward to see if DOT would convey that street over to us to be able to move forward.
I don't think we have anything to lose, do you? I mean, it couldn't go forward without that financially.
Well, I'm not saying it couldn't go forward, but there's just looking through some of the state law that I read a couple weeks back, that there's a number of hoops to jump through to get there that way. But if we just kind of clean it all up, make it straightforward, if we actually own the street.
My only request or suggestion would be that before we go through that step, that we make sure from staff that there aren't any safety concerns on that site because of where it's located.
I understand.
The last thing I would want is for us to put a monument and have people in danger because there aren't sidewalks and an easy way to get to it safely.
Just for clarity purposes, do you want us to inquire about obtaining that entire stretch of Porcher, including the roundabout, or just the roundabout itself?
Whichever it takes. I mean, if they'll convey over to us just the roundabout where we can be able to do that, fine. Or if we have to take the whole street, I'm not sure.
Okay, anything else from council? All right, we do have 4 executive session items today. We will be doing those in this room. And the first one will be a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice relating to the settlement of litigation involving Highbridge Capital and the Yachtsman. We're going to do that one first because we need to invite Charles Rao to join us. The second one will be to discuss negotiations concerning proposed contractual arrangements regarding the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. The third, to discuss negotiations concerning proposed contractual arrangements involving city-owned property in the downtown area. The third, to go into executive session to receive legal advice relating to pending litigation involving Coral Sands. That is the fourth one. We will also invite Fox Simons, Will Bryan, Brian Tucker, Josh Bruger, Michelle Schumpert, Marla Bell, Meredith Denari, and Amy New Schaefer. May I please have a motion to go into these 4 executive sessions? Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you for being here today, everyone. Have a great week. If the media has any microphones on the podium, if we could please remove those at this time. A thumbs up from Meredith. So, Will, I'm just curious, what did he have on when he came to see you?
Brenda.
What? Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
We're
I mean, you never know what kind
We're on
of
TV.
costume. To come out of executive session.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
I got to tell you, that's pretty strong coming from you.